Hello, everyone. I'm Jim and my wonderful wife, Carla, for another episode of Journey of Life, Love, and Lessons.
Yes, and we're so thankful that you're here to watch this episode. We have an amazing guest. He's been on here before, and we just could not wait to have him on here again. And that is Pastor Randall Black. And so he is an amazing man who loves and he specializes in helping church leadership. And he loves teaching people how to become all that God has for them to be, and God has a potential that he created each one of us to be before he was even born. So to have someone like Randall to go and to help you to become and to fulfill your potential of who God made you to be, it's just an honor and a privilege to have him on our show. And he has, not only just talks about this, but he lives it. And that's the difference between a lot of people, because he does what God asked him to be, and he helps others to be all that they're supposed to be. And he has written 6 books. Amazing to have that. So maybe you can check that out. We'll give you a link to be able to connect more with him so you can find more out about him throughout the process and all that he is absolutely burning this world on fire.
Praise God.
Going. So we thank you, Randall Black, for being here.
Yes.
And welcome to the show.
Yes.
I love you guys, and I thank you for having me again. It's awesome. I've been looking forward to this and just sharing some vision and giving people some hope at what God has called them to do. They are well able to do it in Jesus' mighty name.
Right, absolutely. And so we're thankful. The last time we was on, it was a little different topic, but this time we want to talk about what you specialize in and helping people, and that is church leadership and helping others to grow into their potential. So kind of like, what was a beginning journey that you feel like that was a calling, that was a passion? What helped you to realize you wanted to step more to that yourself?
Well, I guess it would have been my journey through Cuba in the late 90s and early 2000s. We started planning churches, and I just saw a need. And even last night, I was in Franklin, West Virginia, doing a church leadership planning service just like 8 or 10 hours ago.
Wow.
And I guess as we began to build churches in Cuba and the Dominican Republic and Panama and Honduras and all these places, and even in America, just began to see the need that, everybody knows how to pray.
Mhm.
But if praying filled every church, I don't know any churches that wouldn't be full.
Right.
Because everybody prays, Lord, bring them in from the north, the south, the east, and the west, and then nobody comes.
Right.
Because the Bible says we're laborers to go get the harvest.
Mhm.
So we can't always declare the harvest to come in when God has told us to go get the harvest.
Right.
And so I just began to associate with people that knew how to develop the natural side of ministry, the side nobody talks about, but things you've got to do in the natural every day to make things a success when we come together as a corporate body. And so really, as we started planting churches in Cuba, in a little city called Placetas, Cuba, and Esperanza, is really where it really began in my heart. And then it's just developed over the last 25 years.
Well, 25 years of that, you've learned a lot there, haven't you?
Yeah, a lot of right and a lot of wrong. The school of hard knocks will teach you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how many, the churches you've built there, and you've taken that learning experience and then brought it to the United States as well?
Yeah, we pioneered a church in Georgia and 2 churches in Virginia, and we've helped churches in North Carolina and West Virginia, Florida, Indiana, in leadership development. And like last night in Franklin, West Virginia, we don't advertise it a lot. I do a lot based on connection.
Right.
And but if people are watching and they want an event with their church, we do all of that at just love offering expense. And like last night, we came in and I had some pastors of churches of thousands that spent lots of money to bring consultants in, and they invested all that information in me for free.
Wow.
And gave me permission. And so last night we talked about the 6 questions every visitor asks when they walk in your church.
Mhm.
And they're all selfish questions. None of them are biblical questions, but they're when you walk in a restaurant or a store, you ask questions in
Mhm.
your mind. You might not even know you're asking them, but you ask them.
Right.
And so we spoke to that core group. If you can answer all 6 of these questions and bring clarity, when people walk in, you'll be dispersing the same information, the same slogan, the same vision,
Mhm.
and people will have a very clear representation of who you are and what you are. And so we had a great time last night, and I've done that several places. And then the next level is the level up and the upgrade session 2. And I just love doing that because a lot of people know how to have a church service, but they don't know what to do after a church service.
Right.
And it's really what you do after the church service that connects the community together.
And with those trainings
And
you've been doing in the churches, have you seen how the churches has grown and become better structured when they
some
found?
yes, some yes, some no, some still a work in progress because it's difficult.
Mhm.
It's hard work. It's brutal. It can be painful because everybody thinks it's church, it's going to be glorious. Well, you read in the book of Acts, they fought, they got imprisoned, they had battles. 2 disciples wouldn't get on the same boat together because they disagreed. And but yeah, a lot of churches I've seen where they get it and they want to run with it and then they slow down. And so then I stay in connection to remind them, or we'll come back in 3 months to remind, because everybody's in different place. Some people are going through, their church has been destroyed by fire. And so they're not just trying to rebuild people, they're trying to rebuild a building. And, so it's difficult if you're remodeling a building and you're also trying to restructure leadership and you're trying to have church. Well, those are 3 major things. And then some churches, they're already, everything is there. And so they can run a little quicker because they're not dealing with extra stuff. And so I just give the people grace because they're all dealing with different things.
Right. And I believe, that's what we have to do is give the grace and to realize that they're on different levels, because not just because you're a pastor does not mean you have the downloads of everything you need to do. And so you can
Yep.
may have a gift, a certain area of ministry, and that does not mean you know all of ministry. And so to know that, I believe, one of the things about preparation is, you're kind of preparing ahead of time, and sometimes if you got to have people come in and help you, just like anything in life, you don't know the whole area, you need some consultants, you need coaches, you need leadership training, you need all of that, to have somebody come in and help you that maybe down the road further than you that has experienced it. You don't always have to have a college degree to be able to help somebody else, but it's the life of hard knocks a lot of times is what can help you, I think, to grow and to prepare for those
That
things.
and allowing people to speak into you.
Mhm. Right.
Our dear friends in August and October, Pastor Kendall and Bishop Clint Brown, they came, and Kendall did leadership training for our church,
Mhm.
the Level Up strategy. And Saturday, and we had like 90% of all our leaders there. Then Sunday for all the church. And then Bishop came, and after he preached and did all of that, he spent 2 hours in the sanctuary, and he travels more than anybody I know.
Right.
Does not, he could have went to the hotel, went to bed, and he sat in the sanctuary in the restaurant for over 2 hours evaluating, and it was brutal. But he loves me, and he did it in a way of love where I could receive it without offense.
Right.
We literally went through everything from lights to paint to scuffs on the altar. Why are the wires hanging crazy off the keyboard? Right?
Right.
Why do you allow people to leave paper on the pews? And went through everything of, you've got all this, but now we need to work on these small details.
Right.
And he spent 2 hours. coaching me up, correcting me, rebuking me, building me up. And so we all have to have somebody that can speak into us. And, and you can do that if we're family. There's many members, but we're one body. Like you and Jim are two, but you're one because the two are one.
Right.
And God's math is different than humanistic math, right? Sometimes multiplication comes from subtraction, Gideon. Sometimes two come together and they make one. They don't stay two. 10% can make you more blessed than keeping 100%, all these things. And so when we realize that we're family, that we're one, our slogan is one for all and all for one. We're not, we have many ministries, but one family.
Mm-hmm. And
we use the word family, not just teams, because family is something you're connected to, accountable to. A team is something you can kind of leave or go to another team, or that coach, that pastor's better, I'm going to that team. Right. And so we really, in everything, verbiage, when we're going to remodel or work, we don't use the words remodel and work because nobody wants to do that.
Right.
We use the word upgrade because everybody wants an upgrade. It's exciting. It's better. And so things like that matter.
Right.
That's good that way. And you're talking about, churches and wondering where they're at, just like, you have Clint there go through and look at things and kind of bring things to your attention. Sometimes
I was in tears.
Oh,
but you knew it's from love, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was good, but I was like, oh my gosh.
But I remember seeing or hearing this preacher said, he goes, I went through seminary, but seminary didn't teach us how to do the leadership and how to look at a lot of different things. They teach you how, God's word and a lot of that aspect, but doesn't teach you how to actually run a church very well, efficiently. And he said that was a challenge, and to learn all that kind of stuff, just like you're saying, run across people and probably like, oh yeah, I want to be a minister and preach and help grow a church. And be like, okay, that's the idea, but how do you do it?
Right.
And people like you step in, just like you're saying, and help build that up. Because just like you're saying, people have to be there. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yep.
You have someone like you to come in, and like you're saying, it could be just like a parent with a child. Like, you need this correction, you're doing this great, and you're doing that, and sounds like you've also received that too. So you're on both ends.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time I receive that, and I ask guest speakers, tell me if you see anything that could be better, because sometimes we will have one or two successful things in our church, and that's all we look at. Look how beautiful that wall is. Right. Look how beautiful. And then we ignore all the other things that need work.
Right.
And when you need somebody to also call attention, like we don't allow tape on our walls because tape tears up wall. It's a little thing, but if you allow every ministry to put tape all over every wall, the place looks terrible, right? I mean, it sounds silly, but it's a spirit of excellence, right? And the other thing, like we empower. We have 6 people in our church that are called to preach, and I train them on how to speak. Give them opportunity to do Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, because, we have 6 in-house speakers, and then we have all these out-house speakers. So I've got to find 20 to 25 weeks a year to have other people speak other than me. So that means I have to trust them.
Right.
But if I'm going to empower them, empowering somebody implies that you trust them. My son-in-law is a state trooper, and if the state of Virginia empowers him with a badge, that implies they trust him. I know a lot of pastors that say they empower leaders, but they don't trust them to do anything.
Right.
I don't micromanage our leaders like, okay, I'll do a walkthrough every 3 months and make sure things are clean, because people don't do what you expect them to do. People will do what you expect that they have done. So you've got to expect it, but then you have to inspect it.
Right.
Absolutely. when they have their Bible studies and they have their small groups, I don't say you can't teach on this, you can't sing this song, you got to talk about Pastor Randall for 5 minutes, make sure people know who I am. You know, people do all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I have empowered them, so I trust them.
Yeah. And that's a huge difference. And you're seeing the effects of that, because, like you say, the pastors want like, well, you must talk about me first, so they know who I am and that I must still have the highlights of this thing.
Yeah.
But a true leader, like you're saying, empowers others and steps back and see where they're at. And then if you need to go back and give them some correction, some insight, then you do it in privately, and you can help them to grow. So they know that, they have the giftings and that you're seeing that. So it makes a difference.
Every service I try to lead by example. My back pocket is filled with trash every Sunday. Because if I'm walking through the church and I see a piece of little in the altar, I pick it up. So if other people see me pick it up, they'll pick it up.
Yes.
Responsibility is this. If you have the ability, respond.
Yes.
So if you see something that needs to be done, take the responsibility. You have the ability, just respond and do it.
Right.
If the bathroom trash on the other side of this wall is filled, I'm not going to send the church cleaners a message. Can you empty that trash? It's Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to empty that trash because I'm here.
Right.
Because they have to do it 3 times a week because we're busy. I'm not going to call them, hey, you missed the trash.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if they missed every trash can in the whole building, yeah. But, you got to lead by example. You got to trust people. And you also got to understand they're volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't treat a volunteer like a staff member.
Right.
Sure.
They're not. You have to give them more grace, more time to learn and flow with the vision because they have a job, a family, a life. They're going through a divorce. They're going through a court case. They've got bills. And so when they come here, it's only one thing in a million.
Right.
And so you have to give them more grace and understanding so that they'll grow in their calling.
Right.
Yeah, and those are times where you can minister and touch someone, and leadership aspect, you don't, cut them down or belittle them. You encourage them, and even bring out, say, hey, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Just that encouragement. So what do they do when they hear, or someone does when they hear that type of thing? Hey, Randall's great. He doesn't treat me bad. He speaks to me in a positive way. I'm going to do whatever he wants.
Right.
Just because
speak to them, not at them.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of times I think like pastors, they may feel like they're beneath picking up that trash, so then what happens in a congregation, they see a reflection of that.
Mm-hmm.
So with you, you not only you lead by example, but also you encourage them. And you don't just you don't point out their negative, but you build up into their positive. And that makes a difference because people need to hear what they're doing right, instead of all the things they're doing wrong. And I think that makes a difference, in the leadership and how they are, what are they saying, to them? Are they encourage them as well as pointing out well, we need to pick up trash. And we know you do. We know you lead by example. We know your congregation and we know they love you, and that you are.
Yeah, we got a great family.
They are amazing. They are really a great group of people. And, it shows because of your leadership. And I think the leadership does reflect into all that they're doing.
Yes. And
go ahead.
Just, you don't have to be in a leadership position to do, like you're saying, giving that example. Where I worked and stuff, I would see stuff in the hall and I could walk past this and just be like everybody else, or I could stop and pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do? What example do I want to set? Nobody may say anything,
right?
But it's just there are people watching,
right?
And and so I would pick it up and throw it away, and do that.
The big is in the little.
That's true.
Well, I got that from Dr. Sumrall, he's the one who ordained me and all that back in the day. And in Bible college, he told us a dean, I don't know if it was Howard Carter, But when all the students were coming into seminary class, he would stand over behind a big potted plant by the doors, and he would throw a piece of trash, not right in the center of the door, but just off to the side. And everybody that would walk in wanting to be a pastor, wanting to be a leader, walk in to get their front row seat. And he would watch it, who would pick up the 3 pieces of paper that he dropped. And he would call them out after class and do personal mentorship, because they not just cared about their position, they were also humble enough to stop and do what needed to be done.
Right.
And so that was his litmus test for personal mentorship.
Right. And we've
It
heard
wasn't scripture memorization. It wasn't who sat on the front row. It was who would do the little thing.
right. And you know, a lot of times you hear like someone sitting in the seat. So I want to have a ministry like that person. I want to be like that person. I want to have the anointing of that person, but they don't know what that person's been through, like say in the small things to get to where they are today. And so if a lot of times, you know, a lot of times people get uncomfortable, they stop, you know, so the leader that they seeing didn't stop. And so the things that picking up the trash or being that kind of person when no one was watching, being nice to the waitress, you know, mentoring someone that they seen needed help, you know, because that's who God was creating them to be. And so a lot of times, you know, people may see something and they desire that, but they're not willing to do the action that it takes to get there.
You're right. They can't. Most people couldn't do it. They would have done tapped out. I told my kids to put on my tombstone on the back, I did not quit, because the one trait I have is I will never give up on the Lord. Fight, finish. I've been through hell. I've been through depression, suicidal battles, all these things through ministry trauma. And I made a vow to God in July of 1982, when I was 12 years old, that, Lord, I'll preach the gospel every day of my life. And the day I stop preaching the gospel, you can take my life. I'm done. And I have had 4 or 5 major opportunities to give up. But I remember my vow unto the Lord that I will preach the gospel every day of my life. And the day I stop doing that, Lord, you can take my life from me.
Right.
And you have to have that kind of tenacity, that you'll endurance.
Right.
Just have endurance. Eventually, people will see, my God, Jim and Carla didn't give up. Look at them. My God, Randall, he should have killed himself. He should have gave up. He should have never been pastoring. He should have. But my goodness, he just keeps on going.
Right. Yes.
That's what I encourage people do. Be that. Be that. Show up every day, and eventually you'll succeed.
Right. And that's the way my dad was. You know, my dad started preaching when he was 16, and he was what I seen all my life. You know, he died when I was 28 years old, but he started when he was 16, and every day he was the same on fire. I mean, he absolutely had the desire to reach out, love people, love God. I mean, he was up consistently at 3 o'clock every morning, never stopped that. He was on fire as much as he was at the beginning, as much as he died when he was at 55 years old. And we have that on his tombstone about fighting a good fight, you know, and he was like an example to me that, I mean, I know what he went through as a pastor, you know, because I was in that household, and it is insane, you know, what you go through, but you have to have that commitment or you will not make it, you know, as much as you have to have that vow, that commitment. And so to be that example to others, like my dad was to me, I mean, it gave me that fight, you know, to like, no matter what the devil tries to bring against me, why do I want to join his team if I, you know, I mean, why would I do that? You know, because it's kind of like, you know, no brainer to me. You know, I'm going to stay with God because he's the one who gives me the strength to go to each day. He's the one that helps me that gives me that direction to fight that good fight, to know that it's more about other people than it is about me. I was here for a purpose. We're here for a purpose. You're here for a purpose, to help other people to grow into their potential. And so to give up is not an option. It's
not an option. And all 3 of our adult children are in this church. They all serve in the media, assistant worship leader, lead guitar player, children's ministry. Never have I asked them to serve. Never have I told them you have to come to church. But they saw the consistency of mom and dad.
Mhm.
I'm at this office 6 days a week when I'm in town, 7 days a week. I show up every day, no matter what life throws at me. All my 4 grandchildren and my 5th child will be here in a few weeks or a month. They're here. My daughter-in-law's parents are here. My son-in-law's parents are here. My other son-in-law, they live 75 miles away. But literally all the parents, all the kids, all the grandkids, and all the in-laws are in the same church. That's God.
It is.
Yes.
That is
I
absolutely
know pastors where their kids don't even go to their church or don't even go to church at all.
right.
I know pastors, their wife doesn't go to church.
Yeah.
And we have 4 generations. We have all, and that's because we all set the same standard and goal of endurance and faithfulness. And they've seen it when nobody was here. They've seen it when people walked out. They've seen it while it's exploding and growing. And we stay the same. We preach the same. We stay on that consistent path
Right.
of trying to be a North Star, not a shooting star.
Right. Yeah, I love that. That is so true. And we love you so much, and we thank you for being on the show. And there's not a lot of people that we really let feed into. We have certain ones, but you're one that we allow to speak into our life, because we know that you come from a place of love. We know that you come from a place of wisdom.
Yep.
And that you want us to walk into our potential. So, you're
Yes.
one that we absolutely treasure your friendship. We treasure
Having that relationship.
guidance. Yes. So we absolutely thank you so much for, speaking into our lives as well.
Oh, yes.
Well, we love you guys, and I hope everybody that watches hit that share button, leave some comments, and come back. And I can't wait for the next time we get to do this.
Yes, absolutely. So as we come to a close, what insight would you like to give? How can they connect with you more? We'll go with that. How can they connect with you more to learn about your ministry, just to learn about the leadership that you do, and just connect more?
Well, they can find me on Facebook at Randall Black or Living Grace Ministries. And our YouTube channel is Living Grace Ministries VA. And they can reach out to us here through Messenger, and they can contact you guys for more information. You can put it in the comments, and we would love to come. And we do a one-night deal or a one-service deal, or we can do it in 2 services of just developing in leaders and the 6 questions people ask that want to get associated with your ministry. What is your DNA? What do people think about you or know about you? They're probably 2 different things. You need to make that one thing. So yeah, and it's awesome. And a lot of times we'll do that one night and then a revival service the second night. So the core group gets a night and the whole body gets a night. But yeah, just open to connecting with new people and seeing what the Lord has.
Yes. And we've been in the leadership that you've done for churches, and you do an amazing job. So we definitely recommend Randall Black for anybody that wants to have him come. He is absolutely the real deal, and you will leave with some valuable insight and be transformed, and it will take you to another level than what you're on. Whatever level that is, he meets you at that level, and then help you to get that insight so you can work toward the excellence and the potential and the fullness of what God has for you. So again, we're so thankful for you. So what advice would you give someone that may be thinking about going into the leadership? What would be like a first step that they could help them to grow and have the right mindset, to keep going things?
We're supposed to be ending, and you're asking me a big question. Boom, I don't know. Oh, the first step, man. Run that way. Well, if you're in a church, of course, you got to pray and know God's stepping you that way, and just have an honest conversation with your pastor. And by the way he responds to you, you'll know if that's a leadership you want to be involved in, just honestly. If you get a response at all, if you can have that open dialogue, and ask questions, what will be required of me? What is the vision? What's the mission? And usually I know before people know. I see what God's doing, and like, okay, I see, because you have members and then you have pillars,
Right.
and you have the casual people, the committed people, and then the covenant people. And so you take somebody from casual to committed to covenant, and you can usually see that process. And leaders don't come from casual or committed; they come from covenant. And so you got to ask yourself, am I in covenant with this part of the body of Christ? And if you are, then you have potential. And then usually leaders just begin to lead, and it's identifiable.
Right.
So I tell them, step one is just begin to do what God's called you to do, whether anybody validates it or not.
Right.
Whether anybody blesses it or not, just begin to do what God's called you to do, and it'll be seen.
Absolutely.
No, that's awesome that way. That's a great, information, and to get some direction that way,
Right.
easy to say, sometimes hard to do, but that's a great thing to get anyone started. So that was awesome there. And like we say, we really appreciate you being here. Everything you say is such wisdom and such, it's awesome to hear. Anytime you see those around there, and I'm really are blessed to have you on here again.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys. I'll be coming your way in May, but I'm going to try to get there before then. I don't know if I can or not, but we'll be there for 2 nights in May.
Awesome. Yeah, we will be there. So
amen to that.
Yes. So thank you to everyone who is watching, and please share, because this is some valuable information for anyone who's thinking about stepping into leadership or already on a leadership level. This is valuable insight for you. And so please share so we can impact the lives of others together, because sometimes we can impact one where somebody else can impact somebody else. And so we impact lives together. And that is our goal. And that is what we have created, the journey of life, love, and lessons together. So we can be all that God has for us, reach as many people as we can with the stories and the experiences that comes our way. So thank you for watching, and thank you, Randall, for being part of this as well. So we love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See y'all.